to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
As we begin our council meeting on the eve of Juneteenth, commemorating the final enforcement of the Emancipation Proclamation in 1865, while also in June celebrating and recognizing LGBTQ Pride Month in honor of the 1969 Stonewall Uprising, let us examine our own hearts and lives to recognize how we each make decisions every day that can either lift up our neighbors or push them into the margins. Each of us has a unique heart and history, but we share a common community. Now let us incline our ears towards reason, apply our hearts to understanding, and seek knowledge we can use to find common ground for the betterment of all of our neighbors. Thank you. All right, Ms. Pratt, if you take roll.
Mr. Gleaves?
Present.
Mr. Jacobs?
Present.
Ms. McFarland?
Present.
Mrs. Solomon-Iscup?
Present.
Mr. Vanover?
Present.
Mrs. Webster?
Present.
Mr. Anderson?
Present. All right, Council, in your package, you received the minutes for the June 4th, 25 meeting. What is your pleasure?
Move to adopt.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any questions, discussion, or changes? Seeing none, all those in favor of approving the minutes as published signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? The minutes are approved with 7 affirmative votes. All right, next on the agenda is we have a presentation for the SOS Scholarship. I believe Ms. Tudor is taking the lead on that. You're welcome to take the podium.
Good evening. I'm here with my fellow co-committee member, Michelle Miller, and we presented our scholarships at the year-end in May, so we've asked the recipients to come and publicly be acknowledged by you guys as well. We started this scholarships about 3 years ago. Started like with $1,000, and then we've gradually upped the ante. And this year, we're very fortunate and excited to have $5,000 total that we're awarded in scholarships. So I'd like to take this moment. We have 2 scholarship winners who have both done very, very well academically and have volunteered considerably in their community. Our $2,000 scholarship is awarded to Deja Shipley, who will be attending the Ohio State University in the fall. Deja, if you join us up here with your mom, Tina. And then our $3,000 scholarship is awarded to Caitlin Higgins, and she will be attending Sinclair Community College in the fall. Caitlin.
And if you guys want to come around, turn around this way. If you want to come around this way, we can get a picture. Come on back. Perfect. That's wonderful. Oh, hang on a second, Mr. Yule. Lawrence, you get right to the middle here. Thank you. It makes a good picture.
Thank you very much.
Thank you to both of our scholarship winners, at least SOS scholarship winners. It's wonderful that it includes a volunteer component. Being active in the community is so important. So we always appreciate when young people are able to be engaged in our community and really be a part of things. So we're also grateful for SOS for being able to recognize the scholars and their continuing education. So thank you again and congratulations. And you're welcome to stay for the rest of the meeting, but we won't take any offense if you want to clear out before this storm comes through, because it looks like it's pretty serious. All right. Well, you're too late. Well, buckle up. We're here for a while then. All right. Moving on to our next item, we have committee and official reports. First up is Civil Service Commission, Mr. Coleman.
Thank you, Mr. President. Good evening, Council. Springdale Civil Service Commission did meet on June the 5th here at Springdale Municipal Building, and those members in attendance was Mr. James Dunnigan, Mrs. Kathy McNear, and also present was Human Resource Administrator Renetta Edwards. It was a somewhat brief meeting as there were only 2 items on the agenda for discussion. The first item was the firefighter hiring process, of which I'm proud to exclaim that the candidates list was not exhausted, and currently the individuals were hired that were selected in the background process. So that position is moving forward. And then the second position was the parks maintenance worker hiring position, and the parks maintenance worker indicated that there was 1 candidate that is also in the background process. So we're happy to say that hiring for those 2 positions seems to be on track and pretty much concluded. There being no additional business, then the meeting was adjourned, and our next meeting will be coming up in July the 3rd, as a matter of fact. So that completes my report. Any questions?
Don't see any. Thank you, Mr. Coleman.
All right.
All right, next is Rules and Law, Mr. Jacobs.
Thank you, Mr. President. No report.
Finance Committee, Mr. Vanover.
Thank you, Mr. President. No report.
Planning Commission, I believe Ms. McFarland is doing it tonight.
Yes, sir. Thank you, Mr. President. Planning Commission last met on June 10th in these chambers. We did have 2 new business items on the agenda. The first one was a development plan review for Beyond Hello, which is at 12140 Springfield Pike. That did have a public hearing tied to that. We did have 1 person that spoke at the public hearing, with a few concerns about safety regarding marijuana. And then we moved on to the plan. We've actually seen them a couple times in concept plan, but they have some proposals for reworking the parking lot, the landscaping, recoding the building. And so we did make a vote on that, and that was approved 7-0. And then we did have the City of Springdale text amendment, which came from the building department regarding the keeping of bees. That was a public hearing as well, with a draft text amendment to modify the keeping of bees. We did not have anybody speaking on the public hearing. And Planning Commission did send a few questions back to the Urban Farming Committee, and we are going to review those questions and re-present with some changes, if necessary, to the Planning Commission before they make their vote or recommendation to Council. And lastly, we had our Zoning Code Revision Committee appointment, and we did appoint Dave Oakham as the Planning Commission representative.
Great.
That's it, if there's any questions.
Don't see any. Thank you. All right, next up is Board of Zoning Appeals, Mr. Gleaves.
Thank you, Mr. President. The Board of Zoning Appeals met in these chambers May 27th at 7 p.m. We had 1 absent, and we had 1 BZ application. The application number was 202504146. SAY soccer variance at 11490 Springfield Pike. Excuse me, the property owners are requesting a variance to allow for a ground-mounted sign with vinyl posts where brick or stone posts are required per zoning code section 153.257G6. That variance was denied by a 6-0 vote. That is all that I have at this time. If there's any questions, please let me know.
So who was the appointment? Did they take the appointment for the Zoning Revision Committee?
That will be coming up at our next meeting.
Next meeting. Okay, great. All right, I don't see any other questions. Next, we'll move on to Board of Health, Ms. McFarland.
Thank you, Mr. President. No report.
All right, Capital Improvements, Ms. Sullivan-Weisskopf.
Thank you, Mr. President. No report.
All right, next is OKI. OKI board did meet on June 12th. There's a few items that I wanted to share with the group that might be of interest. It is the last meeting that OKI had for the fiscal year, and the next meeting and likely 2 meetings will be canceled. So there was quite a bit of business. We did have a 2025 end of fiscal year review, and many of the things that were highlighted were things we've talked about here. Things like the housing dashboard, which was recognized by HUD as a best practice, the advanced air mobility study, which is a leading practice nationally now. OKI did lead a 16-county effort on greenhouse gas reduction. Then later, Indiana University studied and recognized as best in class. It included mitigation plans that enacted change in the region studied. This was a big difference for what it's worth. If you're not familiar with these studies, a lot of times these studies will say, hey, you over there need to change things. Why this one was different is it talked about things that would happen here, and then it followed them up with mini grants to improve things. Things like local truck transit, transit transfers to rail, things that would have a real impact. So that was worth highlighting because it was really impactful. There was also water trails that were established with measurable economic impact. 308-mile-long designated water trails occurred last year with digital guides that had real measurable impact to the communities that went along the waterway. They received a 4-star rating with the Ohio auditors, and then that's all in advance of the plans that are coming. So that was the look back. One other thing that OKI did in the recent past was a fly-in to talk to our federal agencies. And the reason I bring that up in terms of lobbying is there was an ask to increase the planning fund availability from 1% to 3%. So that's something that's useful for communities like ours that do rely on that. If that passes or gets carried on, it would reduce the amount of money that Springdale would have to shoulder in order to do some of the work that we've been doing. So hopefully that lobbying is effective. One other thing that I wanted to highlight was the TIP amendment that was passed. We did pass a TIP amendment, and that's where some of that funding gets passed along. There were 3 things in that TIP amendment that might be of interest. The first was a smart lane project on 275 that will add signs, dynamic speed limits. There was also a change to the Western Hill Viaduct. But included in this change was also the approval that added the 10% carbon reduction funds for a Springdale project. And that was approved by the board at its last meeting. So that's another project where OKI has real impact to our local city. And with that, I will end the report unless there's any questions. All right, seeing none, we'll move on. Mayor's report, Mayor Hawkins.
Thank you, Mr. President. I want to start with a public service announcement. This is the season of solicitors and door-to-door salespeople, and as such, the city does have a process that vets these individuals, and they have to have a permit if they're going around door-to-door selling anything. That process includes there being a $1,000 bond. We run a background check through the police department, and all of these things are done in order to make sure that our residents are safe and don't have individuals out trying to take advantage of them. If you are an individual that has someone come to your door, it is well within your right, and you should ask and see if they have a permit. If they don't have a permit, you should contact the city. Let us know who that individual is or what company they're representing that's going around. There have been more and more of these things coming around, and some people are doing it the right way, but some people are not. There was one group of individuals who was out in Beacon and Oxford Hills last week. A resident had called me, and she had asked for their permit. The individual said they didn't have one, but the mayor said it was okay for them to go around without one. I assure you all that will never, ever happen. Everybody has to go through the process. Nobody is absolved from it. So please be vigilant in protecting yourselves. Ask if they have a permit. If they don't, please let us know and call the city. On a more positive note, we've got concert in the parks going on. We had the first one was on June 12th. The next 2 will be in July. July 10th at 7:30 will be featuring the Gemstones. July 24th at 7:30 featuring My Girl Friday. And also on July 10th and July 24th, in conjunction with the concert, there will also be Art in the Park from 6:30 to 8:30. So some great community events for you to come out and enjoy each other. Thank you.
All right. Don't see any questions. Next, we'll move on to the administrator's report. Mr. Yule.
Thank you,
I'm
Mr.
sorry.
President.
Was that a question for the mayor? Did I miss Mr. Gleaves?
Thank you. Mr. Mayor, thanks for bringing that up. identified a couple people walking in our neighborhood, and my neighbor and I were speaking about that subject, and it came to our recollection that there is no notification, there are no soliciting signs to indicate that you cannot solicit it with the fine noted along with the sign. I think that may help a lot to at least give those people, as they're entering different neighborhoods, the indication that you cannot do this here. If they continue to do so, you were notified. So this hopefully is something we can look into.
Yeah, and I've researched a number of different communities. I think most communities have a solicitation process that you have to go through, whether it's a permit or whether it's merely that you can't solicit unless you've gotten permission. So there, to your point, I'm not sure exactly how we go through and do that unless we're going to stick signs just everywhere. But here, there's a process you have to go through, and if you don't, and someone's knocking on your door, you ask them if they have a permit. If they don't, you call the city, or like the one resident, she chased him down the street after that individual referenced me. So either one is fine.
I'll send them right to you.
Please do. I wish that he would have knocked on my door.
All right, I don't see any more lights. Mr. Yule, when you're ready.
Thank you, Mr. President. Just a quick update for council. We were successful in our search for a new Public Works Director. We will have Mr. Kevin McKinney joining us on June 30th as our Public Works Director. He comes to us with a litany of experience and a wealth of knowledge from Miamisburg, the city of Dayton, city of Lebanon, and also did some time with the Hamilton Utilities. So he's got quite the resume. So we're excited to have him start with us on June the 30th. So we'll have him in probably towards the end of the summer, early part of September to make an introduction. But that position is filled. And just by way, as you may have noticed as you walked in this evening, we have a couple crews here in the building. They started last week on our energy, our lighting improvements and whatnot in this building. So they've been retrofitting a lot of the different old ballasts and whatnot in different areas and offices and whatnot. If you look over in the tax department, it's a little bit brighter than what it used to be. So they took care of the caucus room earlier today and the council conference room. And they'll be starting sometime to do some of the work that they can get to without taking chairs out, hopefully next week. But they hope to be wrapped up in the interior of this building by the end of next week, and then also they'll start the exterior of the building as well with replacing all those older landscape lighting that hasn't worked in a little while. So just that's all I have for my report tonight.
Don't see any questions. Next, we'll move on to the Law Director's report. Mr. Braun.
Thank you, Mr. President. No report.
Engineers report, Mr. Riggs.
Yeah, just a few minor things. So the Northland Boulevard reconstruction project, I'm sure everyone's seen the new traffic pattern. The contractor shifted everything onto the new pavement, for the most part on the new pavement on June 10th. So it's still new. They'll likely be in that maintenance of traffic phase for the rest of the year. They'll be continuing to work or reconstruct the opposite side of the road. The completion date is, at least scheduled completion date is August of 2026. I think they're working try to get most of the actual roadway construction completed close to the end of the year. Then that way in the spring they'll come back and do some of the landscaping and final surface, but I think the current traffic pattern will remain for pretty much the rest of the year. The Northland and Kemper intersection realignment and shared use path project, that's basically Northland Phase 2. That is under design. We've been working with Public Works to set up a project website, and that's up and running now. It was posted on June 10th, so if you go to the Springdale Public Works website, there's a link, I believe it's to the right, for projects, and if you click on the Northland and East Kemper project, there's a lot of information in there for the public to consume. But at the very bottom of that, after you scroll through all the information, there's an online survey that we're hoping a lot of people take time to look at the site and respond. Because there's no formal public meeting for this project, so all the feedback that we get are going to be through an online presence. So the survey is really important, so please share that with everyone that you can. In a similar project, the East Kemper improvements, that's on the other end, the east side of the town. We're in a similar process. We've just been focusing on the Northland Kemper public engagement piece of it, but that the website for that project and a similar survey is probably going to be posted towards the end of this month. So we're just a little bit behind on that one. And the last project is the Springdale Industrial Park and Concrete Repair and Catch Basin Reconstruction Project. We got comments back on June 13th from Public Works, so we're in the process of finalizing the plans, and we hope to go to bid in July, advertise those, so they'll probably come before council, I guess, for award in sometime in August. And that's all I had.
All right, don't see any questions. Thank you, Mr. Riggs. All right, next, Rental Program Committee, Mr. Vanover.
Thank you, Mr. President. No report tonight, although I will be contacting for us to reconvene in probably next 2 or 3 weeks.
Great. All right, next up, Urban Farming Special Committee, Ms. McFarland.
Thank you, Mr. President. We will be doing the same. We'll have a date in the next week or two for the things came from Planning Commission, so we'll get that out shortly.
And just as a note, while we're still in committee and official reports, Council, you should expect that after BZA appoints their person to the Zoning Code Revision Committee we had talked about, we'll start adding that for updates as well to our meetings when that occurs. So I'd be looking to Mr. Gleaves to, once you get that appointment, to work with administration and your counterparts to go ahead and get that committee kicked off. And then we'll look for you to give reports, updates when they happen. All right. All right, so that's it for committee and official reports. Next, we'll move on to communications. Ms. Bowder, are there any communications for council this evening?
Thank you, Mr. President. No communications.
All right. Next on the agenda is communications from the audience. This is an opportunity for anyone in the audience that would like to address council for any reason. You simply need to come forward to the podium, state your name and address, and you have up to 5 minutes to address council on any matter. At this point, I'm opening the floor for communications from the audience. Second call. Third and final call. At this point, I'm closing communications in the audience, and we're going to move on to ordinances and resolutions. First ordinance up is ordinance number 25-2025. This is a second reading. Mr. Jacobs, when you're ready.
Ordinance number 2025-2025, an ordinance authorizing contributions to certain health accounts of employees of the City of Springdale related to the city's health insurance plan. Whereas the City of Springdale, the city became a member of the Center for Local Government Benefits pool offered through the Center for Local Government beginning August 1, 2010, and whereas, as part of the city's health insurance plan, the city has established health savings accounts, HSAs, and health reimbursement accounts, HRAs, for full-time city employees, and whereas the Council for the City of Springdale has determined that it is appropriate for the city to make contributions to these funds up to certain levels in order to provide an additional medical benefit that assists employees with health care expenses. Now therefore be it ordained by the Council of the City of Springdale, Ohio, members elected thereto concurring, Section 1. The City of Springdale shall make contributions to the HSA and/or HRA accounts for all current full-time employees participating in the city's health insurance plan for the 2025-2026 plan year, beginning August 1, 2025, in an amount of up to 50% of the deductible for a full year, but shall not exceed $1,000 for single coverage or $2,000 for employee spouse, employee child, or family coverage, provided the employee is in compliance with all requirements of the city's health insurance program. Section 2. The city shall make contributions to the HSA and/or HRA accounts for all new full-time city employees on a prorated basis as set forth in Exhibit A attached hereto and incorporated herein by reference, provided the employee is in compliance with all requirements of the city's health insurance program. Section 3. The Finance Officer Tax Commissioner is hereby authorized to take any actions necessary to make said contributions. Section 4. This council hereby finds and determines that all formal actions relative to the passage of this ordinance were taken in an open meeting of this council, and that all deliberations of this council and of its committees, if any, which resulted in formal action, were taken in meetings open to the public in full compliance with applicable legal requirements, including Section 121.22 of the Ohio Revised Code. Section 5. This ordinance shall take effect on the earliest date allowed by law.
Council, you've heard the second reading of ordinance number 25-2025 and can be acted on tonight. What is your pleasure?
Move to adopt.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Questions or discussion? Seeing none, Ms. Browder, if you poll council.
Mrs. Sullivan Wisecup.
Aye.
Mr. Gleaves.
Aye.
Mr. Vanover.
Aye.
Mrs. Webster.
Aye.
Mr. Jacobs.
Aye.
Ms. McFarland.
Aye.
Mr. Anderson.
Aye. Ordinance number 25-2025 passes with 7 affirmative votes. All right, next we'll move on to ordinance number 26, 2025. This is a second reading and there is a public hearing. Just as a reminder, how we handle this is we'll go ahead and do the reading one time, the second reading now, and before I'll ask council for its pleasure, we'll open the public hearing and take that process through to completion, and then we'll come back to council. All right, Mr. Jacobs, when you're ready.
Ordinance number 26, 2025. An ordinance approving a major modification to the Century Business Park Plan Unit Development for the property located at 865 East Kemper Road. Whereas the Council of the City of Springdale, Ohio Council has previously approved the Century Business Park Plan Unit Development, the PUD, and whereas the applicant has submitted an application for a major modification to the PUD located at 865 East Kemper Road to allow for a modification to be made by Active Day Ohio to convert the property from commercial use to an adult daycare facility. And whereas at its meeting of May 13, 2025, the Planning Commission recommended approval of the proposed major modification, and whereas a public hearing was held by Council on June 18, 2025, pursuant to the requirements of the zoning code. Now therefore be it ordained by the Council of the City of Springdale, Ohio, members elected thereto concurring. Section 1. The major modification to the Century Business Park PUD associated with the modification of the property at 865 East Kemper Road to allow for a modification to be made by Active Day Ohio to convert the property from commercial use to an adult daycare facility, which has been reviewed and approved by the Planning Commission in accordance with the attached Exhibit A, which is incorporated herein by reference, is hereby approved, subject to the conditions of the Planning Commission, including A, staff, city engineer, and city planner recommendations and considerations contained in the reports, and B, as a PUD, this shall include staff, law director, and city approvals of covenants as necessary. Section 2. This council hereby finds and determines that all formal actions relative to the passage of this ordinance were taken in an open meeting of this council, and that all deliberations of this council, and if its committees, if any, which resulted in formal action, were taken in meetings open to the public in full compliance with applicable legal requirements, including Section 121.22 of the Ohio Revised Code. Section 3. This ordinance shall be effective from and after the earliest period allowed by law.
Council, as I indicated, a public hearing is required for this and has been properly advertised. At this point, I'm opening the public hearing. Anyone that would like to speak on this issue specifically simply needs to come forward to the podium, state your name and address, and speak to this item as needed. Again, there is a 5-minute limit to keep the meeting short, and you can request additional time if needed. So at this point, the public hearing is now open.
If I may, good evening, Council. I'm Christopher Birch from Bailey Cavalieri in Columbus. I'm the attorney for the applicant, Active Day of Ohio. I'm joined by Chris Miller. She's the center director for Active Day. They have a center in Cincinnati that's moving to this location, conditional upon the change to the PUD text as requested. We're here to answer any questions you may have. There was no public opposition at the Planning Commission meeting, but we're here to answer any questions that members of council may have.
Council, if you'd like to ask questions of the applicant, you certainly have the opportunity to do that now. We will also have deliberations inside of our motion as well if you need that. All right, I don't see any questions for you right now. So if you just want to hang out in case there's something that comes up.
Thank you.
All right. The public hearing is still open if anyone else would like to speak to this item. Second call. Third and final call. All right, at this point, I'm closing the public hearing. Council, having heard the second reading of ordinance number 26, 2025 as amended, what is your pleasure?
Move to adopt. Second.
Moved and seconded. Questions or discussion? And again, as I mentioned just a moment ago, this was the item that was amended in our last meeting, so it will require 5 affirmative votes in order to pass this evening, as opposed to the normal 4. Ms. Sullivan-Weiskup.
Thank you, Mr. President. I would like to remind you all again that Planning Commission did hear this in May, and it did pass with them with the conditions. We did take out that last commission, but the Planning Commission didn't have any problem with that as well, so they are happy with what we have. Thank you.
Thank you for sharing that. I was interested in hearing if they were okay with the change.
The ones I spoke to said that they were fine. I didn't go to the meeting, but the ones that spoke to me, which was everybody, said that it was fine.
Yeah, we discussed it briefly at the meeting she wasn't at, and they were all understandable.
Good. All right. Any other questions or discussion? All right, seeing none, Ms. Browder, if you poll council.
Mrs. Webster?
Aye, excuse me.
Mrs. Sullivan-Weiskup?
Aye.
Mr. Gleaves?
Aye.
Mr. Jacobs?
Aye.
Ms. McFarland?
Aye.
Mr. Vanover?
Aye.
Mr. Anderson?
Aye. Ordinance number 26, 2025 passes with 7 affirmative votes. And I just want to say thank you for moving into Springdale. We hope you're happy here for a long time. It sounds like an interesting project that you're working on, so we look forward to seeing it grow. All right. Next, we'll move on to ordinance number 27, 2025. This is a second reading. Mr. Jacobs, when you're ready.
Ordinance number 27, 2025, an ordinance authorizing the execution of an agreement with Donovan Energy for electric vehicle supply equipment design services for the installation of electric vehicle charging stations in the city of Springdale. Whereas the city of Springdale, the city secured a grant from the Ohio, Kentucky, Indiana Regional Council, OKI, to assist with the installation of electric vehicle charging stations to be located on municipal property within the city. And whereas the city desires to enter into an agreement with Donovan Energy for electric vehicle supply equipment design services to be paid for using the proceeds of the OKI grant the city received. Now therefore be it ordained by the Council of the City of Springdale, Ohio, members elected thereto concurring, Section 1. The city administrator is hereby authorized to execute an agreement with Donovan Energy for electric vehicle supply equipment design services in the amount of $45,000. The agreement. A copy of the agreement is attached as Exhibit A and incorporated herein by reference. Section 2. Council hereby finds and determines that all formal actions relative to the passage of this legislation were taken in an open meeting of this council, and that all deliberations of this council, and of its committees, if any, which resulted in formal action, were taken in meetings open to the public in full compliance with applicable legal requirements, including Section 121.22 of the Ohio Revised Code. Section 3, this ordinance shall take effect on the earliest date allowed by law.
Council, you've heard the second reading of ordinance number 27, 2025. It can't be acted on tonight. What is your pleasure?
Motion to adopt.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Questions or discussion? Mr. Yule.
Thank you, Mr. President. We do have with us this evening Mr. Tim Donovan from Donovan Energy to answer any questions if council has some.
Council, you certainly have the opportunity to ask questions of the consultant as well now, if you have anything. I will mention as he's walking up that I believe this was related to the project I mentioned before with OKI. This was part of that same project that got that additional funding approved at the last meeting. One of the things that I thought was interesting, and I think is known by administration, but just to make sure, because it came up at OKI, there's a question about the maintenance of the projects. And the OKI was very clear that any project in this grant project has to be maintained for at least 5 years in terms of maintenance. So just be aware of that as we embark on this, that was part of those covenants that we agreed to when we accepted the grant. All right. Are there questions for our consultant, or if there's anything you wanted to add? All right, I'm not seeing any lights. All right, so Ms. Bowder, if you poll council.
Mr. Gleaves?
Aye.
Mrs. Solomon-Iscott?
Aye.
Mr. Vanover?
Aye.
Mrs. Webster?
Aye.
Ms. McFarland?
Aye.
Mr. Jacobs?
Aye.
Mr. Anderson?
Aye. Ordinance number 27, 2025 passes with 7 affirmative votes. And we look forward to working with you, sir. Hopefully we can come up with a nice solution that fits well in our community. All right. Next, we'll move on to ordinance number 28, 2025. This is a first reading. Mr. Jacobs.
Ordinance number 28, 2025, an ordinance declaring certain city property as surplus property and authorizing the sale, disposal, or transfer of said surplus property. Whereas council has determined that certain property of the city is no longer needed by the city for municipal purposes or useful as such, absolutely or temporarily. Now therefore be it ordained by the Council of the City of Springdale, Ohio, members elected thereto concurring. Section 1, consistent with Article 8, Section C3 of the Charter of the City and is permitted by Ohio Revised Code Section 721.15, the 2006 Ford F-350 ambulance, VIN 1FDWF36P66E8EA 56269, owned by the city, is hereby declared to be surplus property no longer needed for municipal purposes or useful as such, absolutely or temporarily, and that such property may be sold by internet auction or otherwise transferred, disposed of, or traded in by the city and may have the value credited against the purchase price of other personal property to be used by the city. Section 2, that the city administrator is hereby authorized to dispose of said property in the manner specified herein. Section 3, council hereby finds and determines that all formal actions relative to the passage of this legislation were taken in an open meeting of this council, and that all deliberations of this council and of its committees, if any, which resulted in formal action, were taken in meetings open to the public in full compliance with applicable legal requirements, including Section 121.22 of the Ohio Revised Code. Section 4, that this ordinance shall take effect at the earliest date allowed by law.
Council, this was the first reading of ordinance number 28, 2025. Are there any questions or discussion this evening? All right, seeing none, we will see this again at our next meeting. All right, that ends ordinances and resolutions. Next, we'll move on to old business. Is there any old business anyone on council or administration would like to bring forward this evening? Mr. Gleaves.
Thank you, Mr. President. Not being a dead horse, but from the outside looking in, how do businesses know that they can't solicit? I mean, because some municipalities and some villages, I'm not sure, but I would think that they allow it or have some type of deterrent for it. But how do these businesses know that they can't solicit here in Springdale?
I do seem to recall, I thought there were signs at the entrance on some of our roads. Is that not the case? Mr. Braun, did you have something to add there? Or is that just for the radios? It might just
Thank
be
you, Mr.
radios.
President. We can post signs, but the short answer to your question is that by virtue of the fact that we've passed the ordinance and it's in our code of ordinances, businesses know, most businesses that do soliciting, that they should check each community, and the law requires them to be on notice of that. That being said, you're correct. Some communities do post pursuant to ordinance number or whatever, solicitors must register, solicitors must check in. So that is something that we could do. Because they may not always knock on the mayor's door, as he indicated, or one of your doors. But I do think that it's important to also educate the public, because those are the ones that are most vulnerable, particularly our older population, that they need to have a permit, and the reason for that is so they're not taken advantage of, and we have an opportunity to screen. But some communities do signs. We could also do like public service announcements and things like that, through Facebook and other avenues.
Mayor Hawkins.
Thank you, Mr. President. Yeah, the onus is on the individual who has the business. And so, it's the old adage that ignorance is no excuse for the law. So if I go someplace and I go fishing and I didn't know I had to have a license to be out here, that's on me. So it's not on our residents, it's on the people that are coming to our community to try to go and make money, to check and see. And if they don't check and see, God bless, they got a problem. So it's not on us, and it's not on the residents. They have to go do that. And so some people may go, oh, I didn't know. Okay, well, you know now. There's a, right now it's less than a minor misdemeanor. I think it's a $100 fine per instance. But that's on them. It's not on our residents. So if you come to a community, you got to check and see. And if you don't do that, that's going to be your problem. It's no different than anything else. People come in for Board of Zoning Appeals. I didn't know that was the law. That's on you. So the onus is on them. It's not on anybody else. And if we stick a sign in front of the municipal building, that's fine. But there's no way we're going to go and stick signs in front of everybody's house or every community or every neighborhood within the community, because that's not going to really work. So it's just on them.
Mr. Cleaves.
To that point, if folks say, hey, let's stick a sign in front of the municipal building, doesn't bother me. I just don't know that it's going to be impactful for those folks. That if you don't have the wherewithal to come and check with the city on what's going on, you're not going to come in and see the sign anyway. And if you know, then you don't care. I mean, the guys that I chased down last week, they said one lied to a resident. Another one said, well, I think we have a permit. I think that our company did it, that I talked to. I called in, confirmed, nope, you guys don't. So they're just out doing whatever they want to do, is what it comes down to.
Mr. Cleaves.
I appreciate that, Mayor. The issue is that people just don't know. And what you just said, I hope that resonates and people will pick up on it and know it's not their duty to do anything about it or just ask for a permit. But, it's just an educational piece that a lot of neighbors and our residents need to know that some don't know. Thank you.
So maybe the newsletter would be a good opportunity and Facebook posts. Sure. Mr. Vanover.
Thank you, Mr. President. A parallel to this, I spent nearly 30 years in the electrical contracting business. It was on me to check with the municipalities or the townships to find out if a permit was required or city registration was required. There are, unfortunately, operations that will ask forgiveness rather than permission, and there's not a whole lot we can do except hit them in the pocketbook when we catch up with them. And as far as effectiveness of signs, some do, but you know, how good and how powerful are the speed limit signs on 275? It's, people are going to do what they want to do, and you know, and this has been going on, well, really, a lot of it is in relation to the aggregation. These energy companies are out. How long have we had an aggregation program? Yep. So it's, I agree completely with the mayor that's on there. If they're a reputable company and operation, they're going to check on this stuff. If they don't, then shame on them, and you know, we'll report them. I have no problem if they show up at the door. Unfortunately, most of them are kids that are dropped off and sent. But you know, the first question is, are you registered with city? Do you have a permit? And it didn't go any further than that. If they don't, then well, you need to get a hold of the city, go over to the city and get that checked out, because otherwise you're in violation of law.
Mayor Hawkins.
Thank you, Mr. President, and just piggybacking on Mr. Vanover, two of the three people that I was able to encounter, one was from Nevada and one was from North Carolina. So, and no vehicle in sight. They dropped off. And to Mr. Gleave's point, you're talking about educating residents so they know what to look for. We can definitely look at doing that in the spring and summer newsletters we're coming through, and there's opportunities to you know, forewarn people, educate people on things that are going to be coming, because usually it's those spring and summer months that they're out and about. But yeah, for the educating the residents is one thing. Educating the folks that run around, they're on their own. They should know better. But we can address that.
And to be clear, Mayor Hawkins, you're not asking us to update the ordinance. If somebody were to invoke your name as part of a solicitation, that's not an additional charge?
I was tempted to look into making that a misdemeanor in the first degree, but I'm not going to do that at this point. But okay. Yeah, some of what they were doing was pretty frustrating.
Yeah. All right. Any other old business? All right. Seeing none, is there any new business that anyone on council or administration would like to bring forward this evening? All right. Seeing none, we'll move on to meetings and announcements. Ms. Sullivan-Weiscup.
Thank you, Mr. President. Planning Commission will meet in these chambers on July the 8th at 7 p.m.
Mr. Yule.
Thank you, Mr. President. As Mr. Coleman indicated, Civil Service will meet on July the 3rd at 2 p.m. Over in the administrative wing, change of venue. Along the lines of that, as we prepare for the improvements that will be made to the council conference and caucus rooms and this room as well, any files that you may have over in the file cabinets over in the caucus room, if you could get those out maybe by the end of business day next Tuesday, the 24th, that would be great, so that our public works folks and parks folks can come in and start to get some of those, start doing some demolition in there, get the countertops and whatnot out. So if you have any questions or if you need keys, let us know. We'll help with that.
Ms. Sullivan-Weiscup.
Thank you, Mr. President. Mr. Yule, I just announced that planning was going to be in these chambers on the 8th. Is that still the plan, or are we thinking of possibly moving us? I know that there was talk.
Yes, we will be moving that down to the community center, and we will make sure that we get that notification out there.
Still in meetings and announcements. Mr. Gleaves.
Thank you, Mr. President. The Board of Zoning Appeals is scheduled to meet in these chambers June 24th. And since we are the last to meet in the month, we will have on the agenda the appointment or the nomination for the new committee. That's all I have.
Thank you. Mayor Hawkins.
Thank you, Mr. President. And just one, this is sort of future forecasting, and everything in the council chambers will be finished by this point in August, but just so folks know, in case you see or hear on the internet, the City of Springdale will be hosting the Hamilton County Commissioners meeting August 14th at 6 p.m. here in our chambers. So they pick a few places to go around throughout the year, and Springdale's been selected as one. So they'll be taking your places on the dais on August 14th.
They'll be filling the seats anyway. And to that point, as a reminder, City Council is on its amended summer schedule. So our next meeting is actually July 2nd. And then after that, the next meeting for council that's scheduled to be August 20th. So the 2 meetings in between that are regular have been canceled, which means that on each of those dates, we will be doing the full agenda, which includes committee and official reports. Understandably, the next group might be very short, but we'll still use the second meeting agenda as the baseline for that. The other announcement I wanted to share, in case anyone was unaware, Springdale does have a farmer market and vendor fair that's come back up and has been recurring for the past several years. This replaced what was formerly done by the Chamber of Commerce. It's done as a community-led organization. The next one is actually scheduled for June 28th, and it's held at the Springdale Elementary School, and it is from 10:30 to 2:30. I've been there, at least in past years, and the number of vendors is impressive. And it's a lot of local Springdale artisans and people that are sharing their work, and it's worth the time to go out, even if you just want to walk around and meet your neighbors and talk to them and admire their work. It is worth the time. So the next one is June 28th at 10:30 to 2:30 at Springdale Elementary in the parking lot. All right, still meetings announcements, unless there's any others. All right, seeing none, we'll move on to communications from the audience. This is the second opportunity for anyone in the audience that would like to address council for any reason. Simply come forward to the podium, state your name and address, and you can address council for up to 5 minutes. At this point, the floor is now open for communications from the audience. Second call. Third and final call. All right, I'm closing communications from the audience, and we'll move on to item 15 and 16 together, recap of legislative items and legislation in development. Mr. Jacobs, when you're ready.
Thank you, Mr. President. Council, as you review your legislative summary, item 1 was addressed by ordinance 2025, receiving a second reading, an ordinance authorizing contributions to certain health accounts of employees of the City of Springdale related to the city's health insurance plan. That passed with 7 affirmative votes. Item 2 was addressed by ordinance 26, 2025, an ordinance approving a major modification to the Century Business Park Plan Unit Development for the property located at 865 East Kemper Road, received a second reading and 7 affirmative votes. Item 3 was addressed by ordinance 27, 2025, a second reading, an ordinance authorizing the execution of an agreement with Donovan Energy, LLC for electric vehicle supply equipment design services for the installation of electric vehicle charging stations in the city of Springdale. That passed with 7 affirmative votes. Receiving a first reading was item 4, an ordinance declaring certain city property as surplus property and authorizing the sale, disposal, or transfer of said surplus property. That was ordinance 28, 2025, receiving a first reading. They'll be back at our July 2nd meeting. All other issues are forthcoming unless administration has anything.
Mr. Yule?
Thank you, Mr. President. We do have one amendment that is in process right now. We're trying to finish up, but we are looking at a traffic code amendment to regulate the parking of vehicles on unpaved surfaces in front yards, to provide some ability for our law enforcement to have some enforcement action instead of that all coming onto the building department.
All right, are we expecting to see a draft of that for our next meeting, and then it would carry through to August, or are we asking for an emergency clause when it comes through?
So we're anticipating a first reading for July and second reading in August.
Okay, thank you. Are you good? All right, that's all we have on the agenda. All that's left is item 17.
Move to adjourn.
All right, thank you, everyone. We're adjourned.